Everybody, welcome back to another video. This one is in the Neuro-Chemistry series, and in this one I wanted to talk about autoimmunity, and we're kind of lay a broad overview of what autoimmunity is, the different branches of the immune system, and how autoimmunity actually occurs. And then in later videos we'll go into specific autoimmune conditions and the things that we can do for them. My name is Dr. Matthew Shem. I'm the owner of Peak Brain Performance Centers here in Colorado Springs, and the first thing I wanted to start off with is this quote that I read recently, and it says that diagnosis alone should not be considered the ultimate objective of the examination, but the first step towards treatment and attempts to help the patient. And so I think that this is really important, especially when it comes to people that present to my office, and really any office really, but particularly whenever it comes to my office. And the reason being is whenever you're coming to my office, the question now becomes, do we want to go down the route of physical rehab? Do we want to go down the route of more metabolic work and looking at labs and dietary and lifestyle changes and stuff like that? Or does this case just not even fit me and my expertise and needs to be referred to another provider? And so I think Dr. DeJong here did a really good job at putting into words the importance that whenever you come in for initial exam, the goal of it is not to just give you some label that then you go and take to another provider and say, well, he didn't tell me what to do with this. The real question is, what do we do about whatever this patient is complaining about? And is there anything that we can do about it? So the immune system, just to get into the immune system's job basically is, for one, to detect any abnormal things that are coming in, and then either deflect or destroy them in order for them not to get any other places that they shouldn't be, right? And so the immune system has two different branches, really. We have the innate immune system and the adaptive immune system. And so the first thing is the innate immune response, and the innate immune system is defined in this article as a response that's the first line of defense against invading pathogens. And so what you think about whenever you think about that, or what you should think about, is different barrier systems that we have. So we have things like our skin, we have things like our gut barrier, our blood-brain barrier, our mucus barrier, all these various things that protect us from invading pathogens. And then the innate immune responses rely on the body's ability to recognize conserved features of pathogens that are not present in the uninfected host. And I think that that's important because when it comes to autoimmunity, we think and kind of have an idea in our head that all autoimmunity is bad. Well, in reality, we all have a little underlying small part of autoimmunity, because that's how our immune system is regulating our tissues. Let's say I have a normal, healthy immune system. How that immune system works is your immune system goes around and surveys all of your healthy tissues and says, okay, this is the pancreas, this is the kidney, this is the small intestine, this is the adrenal gland, all these various things, for us to be able to say, whenever an invading pathogen comes in that doesn't look like that, that's whenever I'm going to attack it. And then when things get past that innate immune system, we have to turn on the adaptive immune system. So this article says that adaptive immunity has evolved to provide a broader and more finely tuned repertoire of recognition for both self and non-self antigens. So basically, it's another system secondarily to the innate system. Whenever things get past the innate immune system, now our adaptive immune system comes on, where we have things like T cells and B cells that will then go and attack these certain tissues that make it through those barriers so that they don't get anywhere. And then we also have things like memory B cells, where they store that memory of that invading pathogen, so that if it ever comes around again, we know that that's the thing we're not going to let get any further, and we're going to kill it before it even gets past the innate immune response, right? Now, when it comes to autoimmune diseases are caused by the immune cells attacking the host tissue that they are supposed to be protecting. And so this is whenever your immune system goes a little rogue almost, and instead of attacking those invading pathogens that are coming through, now it starts attacking your own tissues. And there's multiple different reasons that this can occur, but it can start attacking things like your pancreas. It can start attacking things like your brain. It can start attacking things like your skin or your cerebellum, all these various things, which now is kind of like the example that I give is, especially when it comes to somebody that comes into my office that we're trying to debate, do we want to do rehab or do we want to run labs and make sure that there's nothing underlying going on? And so the example that I give is, let's say that we have a tire, right? And the tire has a small leak in it. Well, we could just, every morning we wake up and we go get in our car, we could just put some little bit more air in that tire and boost it back up. And then we can ride around on it all day. And then tomorrow morning it'll be flat again and we'll air it up again, right? And so the same kind of thing happens with somebody who has an autoimmune condition and doing rehab. Is most times we can kind of boost function a little bit and make it to where your symptoms may either go away or subside a little bit for momentarily, but inevitably, just like that tire, until we actually either repair that tire or replace that tire or patch that leak, that symptom is always going to keep coming back. And so I think that autoimmunity is really something that is really, really important. And I think this article just states that even more. And it says that autoimmune disease contributes substantially to morbidity, mortality, and healthcare costs each year. More than 50 million Americans are currently living with an autoimmune disease, and new cases are rising at an alarming rate. Autoimmunity is the highest cause of morbidity in women in the United States and is one of the top 10 causes of death in women under the age of 65. Causes of death in women under autoimmune diseases are frequently chronic illnesses, and it is estimated that more than $100 billion in healthcare are spent each year in the management of autoimmune patients, which places autoimmunity among the most costly diseases to diagnose and treat. And this article was written in 2012. So now just think about the damage that this subset of diseases, autoimmune diseases in general, have caused upon not only our nation, but the world, and how much that has probably progressed over the last 9 years. Now, what do you really need to develop an autoimmune disease? The first thing that you typically will see is a person that has a genetic susceptibility. So what that means is if you have somewhere in your bloodline where your let's say parents or grandparents, let's say your mom had Hashimoto's, or your dad had celiac disease, or your grandpa had Crohn's, and your grandma had diabetes type 1, all these different things can lead to you having a more genetic susceptibility, which doesn't necessarily mean that you will end up developing an autoimmune condition, but the likelihood is a little bit greater when there is somebody in your bloodline, and particularly in a closer relative that has some sort of autoimmune condition. The second thing is if you have intestinal hyperpermeability, or aka leaky gut. And what leaky gut basically is in your intestines you have this tube, right? And this tube has these little channels in it for things to get out, and it's typically small particles that get across the intestinal barrier into the bloodstream to be able to provide the nutrients that we need. Well, the problem occurs whenever you have these barriers in your intestine that get a little bit wider than they should be, and now large particles of things can pass through, and your immune system is right on the other side of that wall that then starts attacking that tissue or attacking that large pathogen, and it can lead to various autoimmune conditions. The last thing is an environmental trigger. So whether that's maybe you got a divorce and now you're going through extreme stress, maybe you hit your head recently, maybe you got COVID, I don't know, maybe you were sick. All these various things could be that icing on the top of just provoking the number one and number two to be able to put you over the edge where you now develop an autoimmune condition. The example I think of right there is, let's say that you have this bucket full of water and it's 3/4 of the way full because you have a genetic susceptibility, you have a leaky gut, and then that environmental trigger is that icing on top where now your bucket goes from 3/4 full to overflowing because it just made it to where it was too many stressors on your system, which led to the expression of this autoimmune condition. Lastly, when we talk about what people will typically complain of or characteristics of their symptoms whenever they have an autoimmune condition, is typically people who have an autoimmune condition have been to a number of other providers. They think that I've been to all these other providers, nothing works, and so it must just be this uncurable condition, right? Secondly, is that most people that have autoimmune conditions, they have a relapsing and remitting symptoms. It's not something like, every time I get in my car, I notice that I get symptomatic, but it's just kind of, some days I have good days and sometimes I have bad days, and there's no real reason for that. Third is that these people are often allergic to everything. Like I saw a lady recently who she said that, I've tried all these different drugs, I've tried these different supplements, I've tried different injections, and I just have these reactions to everything. And so they typically think that they have these allergic reactions to these various things, when reality is it's probably not that they're allergic to it, it's just that they're having a reaction to that various substance that they're putting in their body because their immune system is upregulated. Lastly, is these people's symptoms are typically chronic and progressive, meaning they've been going on for a long time, because it's difficult to find a provider that in mainstream medicine that knows how to manage autoimmunity, but also that as they continue to go along, these symptoms just continually getting worse. And the reason for that is just like if you have that bicycle wheel or a wheel that has air that's keep coming out, that air is just going to keep coming out. And so just progressively, as we keep going, let's say I have autoimmunity towards my cerebellum. Now my immune system is just continuously and gradually eating away at my cerebellum. And so that would lead to your symptoms getting progressively worse. So I hope you're able to learn something in this video. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it for you. If you know anybody that might think that this is helpful, I hope that you share it with them. And until then, I'll see you in the next one.